I'm taking you out of the scrub below, spot your plateaus where the cold wind blows. One step higher every week we go, turning little wins into more 5-0. Hello and welcome back to the Legacy Scrublands, where we take you out of scrub lows, past plateaus, and into more 5-0s each week. I'm your host, Kyle, and with me is my co-host who invented the concept of paying 7 life to draw 7 cards, our resident Spike on the mic, Adam.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's true. You created the Grizzlebear card, right? Like that was your
Yeah, I talked to Wizards of the Coast how many years ago? 15 plus years ago to now. It is one of my all-time favorite cards, and I've reanimated that spell 1,000 plus times. So yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, but in case you get tired of looking at it, it's you get to thank Adam for it. But well, Adam, thanks for being here, man. We got a fun topic talking about some Marvel Avenger cards coming out, which we're pretty hyped about. And then we're just gonna jump in and talk about this concept of universes beyond. I think there's a lot of it's a very polarized topic, so I think it'll be cool for us to kind of jump in and give our own take on the concept of different IPs coming to the world of Magic.
Absolutely, sounds good.
Yeah, but before we jump into our topic, we have our filthy casual question of the week, which again, if you are interested...
I was so caught off guard last time, so now I'm ready. I think I'm ready.
Perfect. Okay, good. Well, if any of our listeners are interested in sharing a filthy casual question for our resident Spike on the mic to answer, please go ahead and send in your questions to our email in the link, and hopefully we get these read on air. All right, so Adam, the concept today is you need to get a Magic the Gathering art tattooed on your body. What art are you getting, and where are you going to put that? You're not ready for it. You weren't ready. Oh man.
See, I thought I was ready, but I guess not. Obviously, I'm between two main decks that I have always had a passion for. So one, growing up, was always goblins. So it would have to be something related to goblins, or there is obviously now Reanimate, which is my new bread and butter that I play nonstop. So, oh man, like you said in the beginning, maybe it's one of the arts of Gristlebrand, like one of the retro frame style of it. It is. Oh yeah, it's always a classic. I think just taking maybe next to my heart, where it takes seven of my life points away.
You could go. Absolutely, I love that.
How about you,
man? I think I'm gonna go with I love the full art lands from the Neon Dynasty Kamigawa set. So there's a planes that I use those planes in every. I've got a couple of different Death and Taxes builds that I do, or energy or anything like that. So I think I have probably 20 of those basics, probably more, somewhere in my office. I would definitely get that tatted, just like Yakuza style, just like full back tattoo of that. Or I'm gonna go with the classic, the Aether Vial, the one where the dude's holding it up and evaluating. I'm gonna crop the guy out though.
Wait,
just give me the straight
which Aether Vial is this? Is it not the OG one?
It would not be the OG one. I kind of liked the zoomed in vial. Don't get me wrong, the old school.
That's a class. Yeah,
I love that one. That's the one that I use. That's the one that I play with. But I don't know. I feel like this specific Aether Vial art, I think that would look pretty sweet. So
yeah, I think that's what mine's gonna be. Iconic Masters. It looks like. I think that's one you're referring to.
I think something like that. Yeah. It's definitely an uglier art overall, but I like the zoomed up vial for whatever reason. So
love it.
All right. Well, with our filthy casual question out of the way, let's jump into. We've kind of had some talk off air of just what we think about some of these cards that are coming out and having a little bit of a top 5 list. Before we jump into our top 5, is there anything as a whole that just you're interested in or your take from the Marvel set?
So this set, it makes me disappointed a bit. The reason for this is if you ever look at the cards, it has the same kind of feeling as the Spider-Man. And so I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the Spider-Man dilemmas where um, a lot of the creatures are just legendary. So you can feel like this set was designed for Commander. And I sort of get it from a business standpoint where the money maker for Wizards of the Coast is Commander. So they want to make as many Commander eligible cards as possible. The downside is it really isn't great for the rest of the formats. Like you're not going to have a
Hmm.
lot of one of four ofs of any of these cards. You maybe one, maybe two if it's a phenomenal card. But really, this set's kind of underwhelming me. But yeah,
Okay.
what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I mean, I completely agree. I think looking through, like as the spoilers came out, it was just like legend, legend, which again makes sense. It is a Marvel universe. They're all, you know, the 1% of 1% like superheroes. It's like if you're gonna get a comic book named after you, you probably are a legendary creature. So it makes
Yeah,
sense
but
that
I
they're
mean, like
legendaries.
the
But no, I'm with you. I
equipments, artifacts,
oh
like everything
true,
is just
true.
legendary. I mean, I get
It's
it. Like I
true.
said, I get it. It's just makes
Like,
yeah. We could talk about this later, but you'll see my opinion is definitely more in favor for the in universe. But
mm-hmm.
we can
Perfect.
focus on that later.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Today, we're going to be jumping into 5 cards that we think could have an impact in Legacy and kind of how we are going to evaluate those cards. And we're also going to be talking about our overall feelings towards the Universes Beyond sets that have become more prevalent and more popular as far as set releases go. So, as far as the evaluation of cards, Adam, what are some things that you look for when evaluating is a card going to be playable or have a home in Legacy?
Yeah, awesome question. So this is one of my favorite things to actually look at when a new set comes out is what can I play with, right? I think this is what everybody in Legacy enjoys. I really like looking at every single card before the set comes out just to kind of see this. So here are a few things that I look for. So one of the most important things for Legacy is the ability to pitch for Force of Will or Force of Negation. So obviously, it means you need to have a blue card. If it has blue, it's going to get that extra benefit. There are some other colors that also help. So again, if it's green, you get better with the endurance. If you have white, solitude. So any of the pitch spells helps, but the most prevalent that you need to like consider is for force of will. The next thing I evaluate is the CMC. So there's different benefits. The best types of cards are the ones that you can delve, whereas a very high CMC. So let's just say there's like Tassiger, Murktide, very hard things where a fatal push is not able to target it. But you're able to cast on turn two. Like those things we're able to cast on the first few turns, and then also having the ability to have high CMC to again avoid from the fatal push is very important. The third thing I look for is it's I always call it the butt, right? The defense. So it's or toughness, I guess you could say. The toughness, if it has a 1 toughness, right now there's a lot to worry about just because of Bowmaster. Bowmaster has been a headache for all blue players out there, right? Obviously, if you draw a card, it does 1 more ping damage to a creature. So that's one thing you want to avoid. The fourth is the ability to utilize it immediately. So when it enters, like have an enter ability effect, very powerful. If you have to wait a full turn cycle before it's actually useful, Legacy has so many answers to kind of remove those spells, or you're just dead on the next turn. So having the ability just to it enters the battlefield and has something that you can utilize is going to be very important when evaluating these Legacy cards. What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Well, I agree completely on all of those things, and I know we've talked about Bowmasters plenty, and just I don't think Bowmasters just gives blue players headaches. I think anybody that has enjoyed playing an X1 creature is fuming over the existence of
I
Bowmaster.
guess you play
But
a lot with
yes,
your white decks,
exactly.
yeah.
Thalia has been a beloved card, but it's still you're like, please don't have it. No, I agree with all of those things. I think some of the things that I look at are first of all CMC, and because Legacy is so powerful and it can be very fast. Not necessarily like are you dead as far as like a turn one, turn two, but everything that you need to do is so mana efficient. So either having a very low CMC cost, or to your point, having a way to play it cheaper or cheat on like the cost of it. So if it is going to be something that's like a force of will, for example, 5 CMC card, but you can play it for free. Same with like My Solitude, things like that. So
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
Tasigur, the Murktide, if you're looking at it being like 7 mana, the issue is like, can I cheat this cost somewhere, and then can I find a benefit of it? Looking at things like up the beanstalk. So those are things that I think are really important, and I think anything that's going to be on my list is going to be probably on the cheaper side. Another thing that I look at is what is the current home, or like is there a
Oh,
deck that
that's
I
a good one.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, like is there an archetype currently that I could see this kind of sliding in? And I think one of the things that we talk about is this a card that we want to build around? Like, is this such a powerful effect? It's like you're going to like make your whole deck, your whole strategy about this one card. That's going to be pretty tough to do in Legacy, I think, oftentimes. So instead, I think a thing that I will look at is there's more likely going to be situations that this will slot into a current home rather than making a new home or becoming a pillar of Legacy. And then I think the last thing that I have is the uniqueness, if that makes sense. So this is kind of like, is there something that this deck doesn't have yet? Or is there something that this deck would want kind of more of? So I think of like, for example, like 8 casts. So the idea of like, it's great when you had 4 ways of, drawing cards based on however many artifacts you have. But when you double that, now it's called 8 cast because you have 8 ways of triggering that effect. So anytime it's something that's unique or kind of gives you additional ways of kind of doubling that effect, that's super important to your deck. Those are the things that I would be looking at.
Yeah, and going to like Reanimator, right, is when the Grief got released. Having 8 ways to do that unmask is a very awesome way
Right.
to do it. And
Yes.
unfortunately, they had to fall to the banhammer, but no, definitely agree, and I definitely understand.
Awesome. Okay. Well, let's jump into our top 5 discussion then. So the first one we've kind of had some back and forth on. We think it's kind of a weird one. Again, this is going to be one that I'm going to throw into the Tron deck. This is called the Fantasticar. So it is a legendary artifact vehicle for 3 generic mana, and it is a 4/4 vehicle. So it's flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may have the Fantasticar become an artifact creature until end of turn. Kind of cool. And then the second thing is whenever you cast your 4th non-creature spell each turn, you may sacrifice the Fantasticar. If you do, create 4/4 colorless construct artifact creature tokens with flying and haste. So it's a lot of text on the card that comes down and can be in and of itself a beater of a 4/4 with some evasion of flying. So I kind of see this in the Mystic Forge, I think, style deck potentially. So you get this out, but then they just have the ability to spell, especially from the top of the library once they get that Mystic Forge going. And I could just see this being a way for them to kind of easily close the game out as it goes, especially if they can ever tutor for this with a Karn or something along those lines. So I think it's kind of interesting. I don't think for that deck specifically that 4 non-creature spells will be very challenging for them. So I definitely think that this could be something that could be pretty powerful. What's your take on it, Adam?
So here are my thoughts. I like that it costs 3 mana. It's a nice low cost. It is colorless, so again, any decks can play it, and usually decks that do play it can ramp out that 3 mana. So like you said, Tron. Again, thinking of vintage, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but it has a 4/4 body for 3 mana, so it's already beating the vanilla bear, and it has flying. So just in that itself, it is a decent value card for its power toughness. Now let's get into the abilities. So whenever you cast a non-creature spells, you may have this become an artifact creature until end of turn, which is going to happen, like I said, 9 times out of 10. It's going to be a very easy effect to do. When you cast a 4th non-creature spell each turn, you may sacrifice the Fantastic Art. If you do, create 4 colorless construct artifacts tokens with flying and haste. Having flying and haste is going to be really powerful in a lot of decks. So again, a lot of this hype is going to be around vintage because you can do the your moxes. You can do mox 1, mox 2, mox 3, mox
Hmm.
4, and then you can kind of pump it out, or Black Lotus, etc. And on turn 1, you get 4/4/4 flying creatures with haste, and you are threatening lethal on turn 2 with multiple bodies. So it has a lot of strengths there. My concern is it needs to have a deck that's built around it, and which is fine. But again, when you're looking at legacy, when you're looking at vintage, it takes an extra level of strength to kind of have a whole deck built around this card. In addition, it's a legendary artifact. If it's a legendary, right, you can only run maybe 2, or else once you get to 3, you start running into some problems. So that's my only thing. I definitely put this on the lower of my list. It seems like this card does have a lot of hype in the the market of it. Like it's a rare, and it's worth $21 on TCG Player right now. So definitely some hype around this card. So yeah, like I said, it's on the bottom of my top 5 list.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see kind of like what groups want this. I know, like you said, it's a legendary. I still kind of think that Karn Wish ability gives it some play. Like it really kind of mitigates that legendary text part. But no, I get what you're saying. All right, so that's the fantastic car. Um, so we've got jumping into number 4. Do you want to take this one, or do you want me to go for
Go
it?
ahead. I know you were kind of hype on this con.
So
I was medium.
yeah. Okay, so here's one that I think is kind of interesting as well, and it is the Wondrous Wasp, which is 1 and a blue for a legendary creature, human hero, flash, flying with Wasp Sting. And this says, when the Wondrous Wasp enters, tap up to 1 target creature. It loses all abilities for as long as the Wondrous Wasp remains on the battlefield. And it is a 2/1. So this does not clear Adam's kind of sniff test that we talked about of having, does it die to Bowmasters? Yes. And I think I kind of go back to the same concept of, yeah, sometimes your stuff dies to like dies to Bowmasters. I do think that this is a powerful effect that I don't want to just immediately write off because it dies to a Bowmaster. I think it's going to be one of those things that just, it has a like very unique, kind of cool, not crazy unique, but like it's definitely an interesting thing to be able to play on someone's end step, tap something down, and remove the abilities, which are really good. I kind of like. Um, I'm just thinking about being able to hit um, a goif of some kind. Like if they're swinging in, that you get to hit a goif, and then if they're tapped out, like you're not worried about Bowmasters, whatever. Um, Being able to eat something like that, giving it 0/1, or being able to tap something down and like just not worrying about if it's something that has crazy abilities. So if we're looking at um, even something that we talked about, like an Isocron or Isotil Explorer, just like I know that they want to play lands, I'm going to remove those lands, or their ability to play lands out of the graveyard. So I think it's interesting in that um, extent, and then just the flash I think is huge as well. So
Awesome.
I'm kind of high on it. Maybe not high, but like I think it's interesting. It's something that I would not be surprised if someone played it against me.
See, I could see you playing this in your Death in Texas kind of style, like a blue white where you can tap down your board. It looks like a creature here and there, and to start slowly gaining
Hmm.
those values. So the things I like, again, it's a blue spell, so it already gets a win for Force of Will pitch. If you have duplicates, again, it's legendary, so having 4 of these is too dangerous in my opinion. Maybe a 2. Um, it's a 2/1. That 1 defense really does scare me. 2 damage is nice, but okay. As flying, flash, great. I I don't know. I don't think there's, like I said, you can do it for Bargoyf as like a good hit, but there's not too many other creatures where it just kind of sits there and does nothing. Like I said, I'm trying to think of like if you play this against Reanimator, yeah, you can stop the Raph and Mikey card from
Hmm.
doing its thing, which could be a hit. But there's only 1 in the deck, so like how many times that can happen? I don't know. I am not convinced yet. I think this is probably, in my opinion, one of the weaker cards on the list, but we shall see.
Okay. All right. Fair. Fair criticism, and I think that like all the things that you're pointing out definitely make sense. I still am interested in maybe that is the death and taxes of like, oh, it does something cool when it comes into play and like it's an ETB effect. So that could just be me, you know,
I'm excited to
loving
play
to
against your
tax
blue
people.
white
So
taxes list now.
yeah, I know. Well, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure with my Wonder Swaps not doing much against you, I'm sure you'd be excited to see it. But all right, well, let's jump into the next one. Here's another one that I thought was kind of interesting, and it plays along with um, a lot of the artifact elements. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. And this is Shuri Wakandan Inventor, which is one in a blue for a 2/1. Again, not great stats. I get it. Legendary creature, human artificer hero with artifact spells you cast cost one less to cast. And then it has for one generic, so it's a tap ability. So it's one and tap. Target artifact you control becomes a copy of a second target artifact you control until end of turn, except it isn't legendary. Activate only as a sorcery. I kind of like this in the blue affinity deck. I just think of like, man, if you can get a Kappa Cannoneer and just turn one of your kind of crappy, I mean, even like maybe a land, so like maybe even your Seat of the Synod or um, one of your Baubles or a Mox Opal, turn that into another Kappa Cannoneer and then just lay out one other thing. They both get a little bit bigger, and then you're just clocking them even harder. So not that Kappa Cannoneer needed any extra help with kind of closing that out, but I do think it's kind of interesting. I also kind of like the idea still in that same home of like if you um if you get if you get Shuri out and then a Pinnacle Emissary, I like the idea of doubling a Pinnacle Emissary and then just casting a couple of bubbles or casting some of your really cheap artifacts, and then you essentially are just doubling all these 1/1 triggers so that later, one, you get to start kind of slowly chipping away with. If you had like three flyers, it now becomes six of those 1/1 flyers, chipping away pretty quickly, and then just makes it even better next time the Kappa Cannoneer comes out. So I think that you have a couple of pretty powerful things that you would be okay turning them into, and then um, just kind of getting those extra triggers off of some of your cheap spells. So that's the home that I like it in. Um, is it potentially kind of slow? Is it potentially have a weak toughness? Those are all definitely fair criticisms. So I don't know. Like you said, I'm not Donald. I am not an expert in that deck by any means. So like, I could definitely be wrong. I do like the fact that artifact spells, one, they cost less, and then you get to have some pretty cool copy abilities. So that's my take. Adam, what do you think of Shuri Wakandan Inventor?
Awesome. So you said I am again medium on this card. Again,
Hmm.
pro. It's blue. It's has an ability that you can utilize right away in the sense that artifact spells cost one less to cast, so you get that immediate ability. The downside obviously has one toughness. Kyle loves his one defense creatures. He hasn't been
I
punished
do.
enough by Bowmaster to know
Yeah,
that
Thalia. You would
deck.
think with Thalia, I need more of those effects.
But its ability in itself is extremely powerful. So again, target artifact you control becomes a copy of a second target artifact you control until end turn, except it isn't legendary. So even adding that it isn't legendary is going to be very cool. There's again, I don't play as many artifact decks today. You can copy the One Ring, right? Who would have thought you could have two One Rings out on the same time? It's it's not legendary. You
That's
don't
a
get
great
the
point.
benefit of having the
The
protection again,
protection, right?
but whew, there are some cool things you could start doing with this card. So now comparing it to the other cards that are very similar. So I like to look at Emery. Emery obviously is a 1/2 creature, so you flip its power and toughness, which matters a lot. Um, and it has, if as I said, Emery's very similar. Whereas you have to wait a turn to get this going. But moreover, what card is available right away is if you have Skateboard, which all these decks do play, you can have Skateboard enter with it. That's pretty good. You can give this thing haste. It's going to be pretty common. I am, like I said, I am optimistic that you're going to see this card being tested maybe even more than once. I think you're going to see this a little bit. Is it going to be a staple? I don't know. I would say it's going to be a a very fringe card that it's going to see some decks to be played. I'll be very interested. I think you could do some cool things.
Okay. No, I like that take. Well, speaking of uh, blue artificers, tell me about your blue artificer that you kind of really like for the set.
Awesome. So yeah, so Kyle and I did go through this list, and so we both agree this card is pretty cool as like one of the top cards. So this is number two. So Tony Stark, one of our favorite superheroes we have in the universe. It is a one blue, one colorless. It is a 1/3 body, legendary creature. It has pay one, tap, look at the top four cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. In addition, it has a second ability of pay six, where it has blue red, where you have to pay into it. And it's transform Tony Stark, activate only as a sorcery. When it flips over, it is a 5/5 flying haste. At the beginning of combat each turn, you may put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield. If it's an equipment, attach it to the invincible Iron Man. So, why I like this card? Again, it's blue. Blue, you can pitch to Force of Will, Force of Negation. It has a 3 defense, gets around Bowmaster, which is a very scary card. It has an immediate, if you have enough mana, you can use a secondary ability right away. Obviously, it's a lot of mana, so you're not going to see it too often until the late game. But maybe it's a good top deck late in the game. And then its first ability is insane. So again, I see this very similar to the Emery kind of card, where you know Emery is you put 4 cards into your graveyard, which does matter a lot. But this you can keep going through your deck and again just finding the biggest cards you need. A Kappa Cannoneer. I am pretty interested. Again, I think this card you're going to start seeing more and more in a blue affinity shell. I am very interested in what people are going to do with this. What are
No,
your
I like
thoughts?
that. I like that as well. And again, no, I think this fits perfectly in that blue affinity list. Kind of like you said, very similar to the Emery of again the mill versus just looking at top four, finding something that you need. Um, Another thought that I have is, and again, I am not a painter player, but like, would this potentially want to be in a painter list? I feel like their lists are very like locked down in terms of like they've got a lot of different things that they want to do. But recently they've got the surveillance cam, so they are that
Yeah,
like
that
blue red.
card.
They've got that blue red list already. I don't know if that's something that they would want, but I don't know. I see blue and red, and I see I think of that there is a blue red artifact deck. I don't know if this belongs there or if this would strictly just kind of hang out in the um, blue affinity list. But no, I definitely think that it is powerful, and I expect to see at least to try it out in Legacy.
Awesome. All right, let's
Yeah.
get to our
So
number
our number
one
one,
card.
yes.
All right, this was what I was most hyped about, and I really do think in Legacy it actually has a better shell compared to a lot of other formats. So this card is I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Namor the Submariner. Let me pull this bad boy up. So this card, it is a 3 mana, has 2 blue, 1 colorless. It is a legendary creature. It's a mutant merfolk villain. As flying, and it is X4. And Nemor's power is equal to the number of merfolk you control. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with 1 or more blue mana symbols in its mana cost, create that many 1/1 blue merfolk creature tokens. So why do I love this card? One, it is a blue spell. Great, that's like the number one thing that really helps to be in the format. Two, it protects itself against bolts, bowmasters. Like I said, the downside is fatal push. It can still get hit by. This card reminds me a lot of Monastery Mentor, where it enters, and if you're able to cast spells, you immediately get another token. With blue, right, it's already the most popular color in the format. So casting a Brainstorm, boom, you put a 1/1 out. Ponder, boom, another 1/1 Merfolk. You're making this creature powerful. The best part about this card is you cast it, and let's just say somebody tries the Swords of Plowshare it. Force of Will. Boom, you get 2 Merfolk on the battlefield after forcing. That is an insane value you're getting with this card. And again, I think being able to have these abilities where you're going very wide is going to be important. Now, the question is, what deck does this go in? I could see potentially two. So actually maybe even three. So one is Merfolk. Now, obviously, Merfolk is not a common deck in Legacy. Does this become one? We'll see. Probably not. I don't think people are going to build a Merfolk deck just for this card. Then it's number two of maybe like an is it like a low mana where it's like the top end of your curve of a creature. So this is like True Name Nemesis, and where True Name Nemesis again isn't seed play too much right now, but this is different where it goes very wide, which is very good in Legacy. And then the last place where you could potentially see it is any just type of control list. This is if I'm playing a control list, this is my one threat. You play this card, and then you just protect the queen, and then you just you go very wide, you go very quick, and again it pitches to Force of Will, which Monastery Mentor does not have that ability. So I'm putting this card even above Monastery Mentor. So yeah, I'm very in for it.
Nice, nice. I like that. I definitely am with you. I think the two that I have been thinking is one, the control package, like you kind of mentioned, having that monastery Swift Spear element of like protecting this. I don't know that I like it as much in the is it build. Only reason, and I do think it's a powerful card, but I think that they're already
3 mana is
really,
a
really
lot.
low to the, yeah, three is already a lot to ask. And I think they already get kind of a similar effect from the Quarry Steel Cutters. And so do they need Quarry Steel Cutter 5 and 6? That's a little bit more expensive. I personally kind of doubt that, but I definitely do like it in a control deck where you've kind of run your opponent out of some options and you slam this late, and now all of your Force of Wills, like you said, you get two bodies off of it. All of your Ponders. Not only is it going to get you a card, but it's also going to get you a small body. But I especially like it to your point in Merfolk, which I think is kind of the like glaringly obvious home for it. The reason being is I think with the cool thing of being able to like vial this in on three while also leaving up some mana, I think is pretty cool. And I think Merfolk can potentially do a nice job of being able to protect it by itself. They've got a lot of different ways of like
Cavern of
sacrificing a creature
Souls.
to protecting it. Cavern of Souls is also really nice. So like the Voldaren Hexcatcher and just like all those little Merfolk creatures that you get also get pumps just automatically by all the lords that the deck runs. So I think that's kind of nice and just helping you close the game with this being like a nice top end. But they also do run the force of they run Force of Will, they run Force of Negation, and then they've also been running Sink into Stupor, which is like the land that they have, but it's
Yep.
also one blue for not even counter, but just like so if it's can't be countered, but just return it to your hand. That's kind of nice. Then it comes with two blue creatures as well. And then the other thing that I kind of like it with is I don't see it a lot, but I like the idea of it at least, which is the Flare of Denial. So that's one blue, which is
Oh, you're right.
sacrifice
I
a
forgot about
non
that one.
yeah, so sacrifice a non-token. So you're not going to be able to sacrifice your guys for it, but because you're in Merfolk and you've got a lot of blue bodies out there already, being able to sack this and then you get two bodies back later. So maybe this is sacrificing like a Silver Gill Adept or maybe a Lord that you no longer need, and this is going to get you a lot more bodies anyway. So I just kind of I like that aspect. So I definitely think it's pretty powerful. To your point, is Merfolk the most powerful deck? Probably not, but I definitely think that this is a powerful card that potentially gives them a bump.
Awesome. And audience, let us know what you think of the top five that you would have.
Yeah, does our top five is it crazy embarrassing, or did you kind of perfectly agree with us? We hit all the marks. Let us know. So with our top five kind of wrapped up, let's kind of go back and just talk about our overall impressions of the Marvel set. I know we kind of gave a quick intro of our set, and I know we said a lot of legendaries. What overall is your take, power level wise, flavor wise? Do you like the concept of it? What's your take?
So I would say the flavor hit the mark. I think there's a lot of really cool cards. They're Fantastic Four cards. If you've ever looked at them, they're just a lot of fun. Is it for Legacy? Probably not. But at the same time, is Wizards of the Coast trying to target Legacy? No. And it makes sense, right? They need to sell their product. They are going to sell for Commander and then also the standard and modern type of play. Did it hit the mark there? Maybe that's another podcast you can listen to of whether it's going to hit the standard play or Commander. I've been reading a lot, and it's sounding like I said for constructed play. Commander itself, like I said, I think people are gonna have fun with it. but people are just disappointed with the power level
Yeah, I
of
could see
this.
that.
Yeah, I just there was nothing too crazy. What are your
Yeah, and I
thoughts?
so I definitely agree with that. I think it's neat, like Marvel movies, like superheroes. So I think it's cool. A lot of interesting cards to kind of look through. My take though is it definitely seemed underpowered. And I felt like a lot of it kind of needs to play with each other. As I was going through a lot of the stuff, so much of it was do this if you control a hero or other heroes or other
Yeah.
villains or right, which is any time that you have a set that's kind of like generically set inside itself, if that makes sense. Like we don't have a whole lot of heroes and villains. In fact, I think this is probably like the first. Do we have any other sets? Like, was there a lot of heroes and villains?
There might have been heroes. Villains, I feel, just got introduced, but I can take a
Okay.
quick look for you.
Yeah. So my overall take is that any time that you have something that requires you to play so hard on just the set that it was released in is it kind of lacks some of the like it's forced cohesion and you just get these cards. It's not like, oh, like let me bring in this old other powerful thing. So uh, that's kind of my take. But
So yeah, real quick, found
yeah.
that the Spider-Man did have at least one villain and hero.
Okay.
So
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 heroes
maybe that's
and
what they're
villains
playing it off of. Yeah.
slowly. Yeah, and maybe they do release more heroes and villains, but I just think like as I went through, it was like if you have a hero do this and if you have a villain do this. So it takes the ability of being like this could be just a powerful card if it didn't have heroes or if it didn't like so I was thinking about like the Captain America one, which is like if it has a shield token, other heroes you have get like hexproof or whatever. It's like okay, that's clearly designed for just to be played with this set or just to be played with like a commander deck of heroes. Where if it's instead it was like creatures you control or even just like humans or whatever. Um, I definitely think that that brings down the power level of the set. My question
One thing
though
that
is,
matters.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, sorry. Let me expand. One thing I think matters too for a lot of players, specifically myself too, is like, are you getting the value that like if you open these packs, are you getting the value back? Looking at these prices of the cards, these are cheap cards. They do
mm,
not hold a lot of value. And one thing I wish that they did do, and maybe this is my own selfish thought, but what was the common theme we talked about most of these cards is the power level of affinity decks. Wouldn't it have been really cool if it had like Captain America Shield as Mox Opal? You know what I mean? Like Mox Opal needs to
yeah.
be reprinted. I think you could have amazing art with it. It would lower the price. It makes the set more valuable. But right now, there's just nothing in the set that people are chasing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a
No, it's
very
true.
soft format. I think the sales of this is going to be atrocious. I'll be honest. I think the sales are going to be
Okay,
really, really bad. Similar to Spider Man. So we'll
interesting.
see.
Okay, I see. I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. I think the sales are probably gonna be fine. But this kind of leads me into the one topic that I wanted to get into, which is kind of like the idea of universes beyond. And I think it's a very polarized topic of like, is it good? Do we like it? Like as Magic players, I know plenty of people don't like it. I almost don't know if Wizards likes the idea of being like, if it's a universes beyond set, it doesn't need to be that powerful because of the names that we're bringing in are going to be what sells the set for us. Like I don't need to drop a Mox Opal in your take because people already want to come and buy it because it's Iron Man, right? I that's my take where it's like, are they going to use that reprint equity when they on a set that they don't think is going to be that like that popular? So if they have a universes within set that they're like, man, we potentially think it's a cool thing, or maybe like the old school players of oh this feels more like old school Magic that doesn't appeal to some of the audience within the Magic overlap or Venn diagram, then they drop some of those really powerful reprints in it. That's kind of my take. Is like I think just because the Marvel name's on it, I think it's gonna probably sell pretty well.
So obviously, Marvel, I can't agree with you more. I think Marvel is a very powerful name to be added to your product, right? It's going to hold a lot of weight, and people are just going to buy it because it has the name Marvel to it.
Right.
Now, I think in the short term, that is an argument to make that like you're going to get a quick dollar because of its name. One thing I hear from a lot of people is that when you have too many universes beyond into the format, it dilutes your IP. So until like your own property of like your cool cards, your Jace the Mind Skull, your Jaces, your your normal John, your Planeswalkers, like what you built, you already have this universe. And so when you add too many other things, you're diluting the potency of your product. And so like I said, I'm in the business world right now. Like, so I go in a lot of meetings where, and I'm sure this is gonna be the same thing at Wizards of the Coast. You're gonna have the people within Wizards of the Coast say, "Hey, these universes beyond sets make us a lot of money. Therefore, we need to keep doing this." And the reason I say that is Final Fantasy made a boatload of money for them. The
Mhm.
Avatar: The Last Airbender did really, really well. The Lord of the Rings did extremely well, and obviously Marvel is a very important set. So like I said, I agree with the name. The cards in itself just aren't strong. I think like Lord of the Rings has just like way more powerful cards in it, and same with these other sets that I kind of highlighted. I think the set is going to be closer to Spider-Man, where it's just too many legendaries. It's not hitting enough formats, and just the card value in itself is not there. But let me go back to your original question of what I think about universes beyond. I think, and I've thought about this a lot in the past. I think if they do it once a year, maybe twice a year, and you're pushing it twice a year, I think it's a good spice to add. We can have the debate of whether it should be standard legal. I think that's a very fair argument. Once you start adding, what is it? What are we at now? There's more universes beyond sets this year than there are like within
Yeah,
universes.
there's gonna be 4, I think, and then 3 within.
That's not okay with me. That's it's just not. I think they're diluting the product a little bit too much. I think they can have the right balance, and I think they just went a little bit too much trying to chase that short term profit, and they're risking their long term growth. Now that being said, my goal when it comes to Magic is to bring the community like in and have more people join the game. Is this doing it? I don't know. I think Commander maybe you can make the argument that more people will come out to a Commander to play, but for anything else, maybe not. So we'll see. What are your thoughts?
Um, no, I mean, I think that those are all really fantastic points, and I definitely agree. Definitely like a disappointment, I think, in there being so many universes beyond, and you could whether you like the verse or not. I mean, I think that maybe plays a role to some degree. It's like, oh, this is kind of cool. We like this one, but we don't like this one. Like people liked Final Fantasy, they didn't really like Spider Man. I do agree with you that I think doing it too much then kind of sours it and makes it feel not special. I think if you did it, like to your point, once a year, I think that seems really cool, and then it does give a little bit more spice. It's kind of like oh, look at this cool thing that's coming out. But I think
Absolutely.
when it's done too often, I definitely do think it weakens their overall brand. And I think you said it perfectly, which is, and something that I kind of hate, which is that it's kind of cash grab after cash grab. It feels like, whereas they're just going to risk the long term profits of, well, they'll look back and say, oh well, if we had spent this time kind of developing our own identity and developing our own characters and their own story, like could we have this on and come up with more cool ideas? So I'm definitely with you there. Beyond that though, I will say some people kind of talk about like their immersion being broken, and I have not personally felt this. I don't know if you have a different take on it. I feel like my if I'm in the middle of a game and someone plays a skateboard, I'm not like, oh, there's a skateboard. Like I'm just like, oh crap, my thing is now tapped, and like I'm not
Yeah,
gonna be able to block. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So in the middle of the game, like I'm my immersion is not necessarily lost there. Like I'm not mad that I see an orcish bowmaster. In my mind, that just becomes a part of Magic, and maybe that's something that it just fits potentially the same vibe as the high fantasy Magic, so it fits a little bit better. I think my immersion's kind of broken more so when I'm like reviewing cards in spoiler season, where I'm like, oh, this looks so dorky, and
The Dwight
but I
Schrute
think like
towards the plowshare.
yes, like yeah, I mean, I definitely don't love looking at it when it comes to like scrolling through things, but how often are people playing that? And like honestly, I'm just upset that my thing got swords. I'm not like more
Yeah.
upset because it has Dwight Schrute on it. So that's kind of my take. It doesn't bother me, but I do, or sorry, it doesn't bother me like when I'm playing it, but I do kind of dislike it as it kind of gets overused. And unfortunately, though, it does sound like that's kind of where we're heading. So I know that 4 this year have been Universes Beyond, and 3 are going to be Universes Within. But it sounds like from recent reports, they're going to kind of split it. And so when we get 6 sets next year, it sounds like 3 of them are going to be Universes Beyond, and then 3 of them are going to be the original Magic IP. So I don't know. It kind of makes me nervous, but I guess we'll see what those IPs that they bring in. It kind of leads to the question. And do you have anything else that you want to add on to your overall take of Universes Beyond before we jump into like our last part?
No, I like I said, I understand from a business point why they do it, but kind of
Yeah.
saddened that they're doing it too much.
No, I definitely agree. Well, I guess even though we kind of have a little disappointment within Universes Beyond. Are there any universes that you feel like we could bring in where it's like, hey, if we did this, if we cut Universes Beyond down to 1 set a year, or even 2 if we needed to stretch it, what would the 1 or 2 Universes Beyond where you'd be like, I'm okay with this one coming in. This one feels like it fits a little bit better than like SpongeBob. You know what I mean? So, is there something that comes to mind where you're like, this universe I wouldn't hate to see if I have to, right? Like if I can't just play with my Magic cards from the Magic universe, what IPs would you be okay seeing?
Sure. So I think it needs to be at least in flavor with magic. So I'm thinking fantasy, where there's magic involved.
Yeah.
There's and I think one thing that's like perfect is this is getting close to like too far is like Avatar: The Last Airbender was very fun because they can do these magical things, right? They can water bend, fire bend, etc. And that does go along the lines of like what magic cards are doing, and it's a lot of fun to play these cards. And obviously, like I grew up watching After the Last Airbender, so it was more fun. Same thing's true with the like Lord of the Rings, where it has some magic to it, and it that part's pretty cool. For me, like when it gets to like the like I said, The Office, bro, there is nothing mad. I love The Office. It's
No,
one of my all-time favorite show. There is no magic in there except for Michael
yeah, I don't
Scott's
want to see
magic.
Michael Scott. Yeah, I don't want to see Michael Scott as a planeswalker.
That would be really funny though. Sorry. Okay, maybe all right. I'll pay that one. I'll buy it. But what I would like to see, I think they did their big ones. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, but I could see Harry
Mhm.
Potter being one that they would do in the future. I'm sure it would be very expensive for the IP to buy those rights. That's
Yeah.
probably the biggest one I could see close to near.
Yeah,
What are you thinking?
I think Harry Potter would be interesting. I feel like they're kind of trying to do that with their current set of what's it called?
Strixhaven?
Strixhaven. Yeah. So
I'd
maybe
rather
they're
have
trying to do
Strixhaven.
that with
I'd rather have that, right?
no.
That's in the early
I
universe. Wizard release stuff. Like I like that. Strixhaven, I
no.
love the set.
I'm
It's great.
definitely with you. So I think if I had to do like bring in a universes beyond, there's a couple that kind of come to mind. I don't know if you're a big anime fan. I there's a couple animes that I really like, and I feel like to your point, like the powers and like doing kind of like crazy things, um, like I think that can kind of fit into the anime universe. And plus, like I kind of already mentioned, loving like the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, some of the arts, and some of like the special Strixhaven arts. Like I think those are pretty sweet. The two that I kind of thought might be interesting universes beyond to kind of bring in would be the Naruto universe, or the Full Metal Alchemist universe. I don't know if you're familiar with
Oh, I love Full
either
Metal
of
Alchemist.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with either of. Well, it sounds like you are familiar with Full Metal Alchemist, but the idea behind both of those shows is I think it has a decent character depth in terms of like you have some very beloved characters, but you also have like a lot of characters within that universe that get enough screen time to make them memorable and feel interesting.
Yeah.
There's different powers, and like it has this different identity that I think could fit within the magic kind of like color pie element. So I think that those could be really cool. I think those could bring in some kind of special art and have different flavors that feel unique and kind of reminiscent of the original IP, but I think would fit potentially pretty well within the Magic universe slash Magic gameplay. And the other one that I thought of was kind of Game of Thrones, which maybe is a little bit mature for, I guess, what Wizards potentially would want to go to for
Are you saying you
an
want just
IP.
like half naked women on the cards? Just
I that's no, that's not what I'm saying. But
oh,
I
okay.
could understand Wizards not wanting it because of that reason. I do kind of like the idea of you have a bunch of different houses kind of fighting. Each house has their own identity. You have these characters that are like cunning and strong, and like there's an element of fantasy with dragons and mysticism and zombies and different cool like aspects that I think could fit within the universe. Like people
No,
love dragons. Like
I
it's
could
a
definitely see
popular.
that.
So I
Yeah.
just don't know how much of the like to you said the half naked women being part of that show being a red flag that they would stay away from. But I think that could fit. What do you
No,
think?
I love Game of Thrones. It is the best 6 seasons show like you could ever watch.
Yeah,
I think that, like I said, it's amazing. So, as a personal fan, like I said, I would love to see it. Maybe not in Magic, like I said, that's debatable. But like I said, I am a
sure.
huge fan of Game of Thrones. And I guess the one last one I would finish off with that I felt like that they were trying to touch on
Yeah,
is
what do you
like
think?
Star Wars. They had Edge of
Yeah,
Eternities trying to like touch that. They have the Star Trek one coming out. What Star Wars is already owned by Disney, and Disney was okay with uh, the Marvel one.
giving up
So
Marvel. Yeah,
I imagine next year I could definitely see Star Wars being released. Not that I would want to see it, but I think that one's probably going to be next, like one of the big ones next year or 2 years from now.
that would be huge. That would also, I think that would be an incredibly popular, like it would sell like hockey, like it would sell so crazy. The only thing that is, would Star Wars have an issue with that? Because they do have
Their own
their
game.
own card game, right? Which I don't know. I don't know enough about other card. Like, is there a Naruto or Full Metal Alchemist or Game of Thrones card? Like, I don't know if that exists, but
All of
I
these
do.
games, they usually try to make their game. I'm thinking like Attack on Titan, like they have their own little card game, but it's not.
Oh, do they?
Is it
Okay.
really a card game? Star Wars does. Star Wars actually has a strong community, so that's definitely something to consider if it's like a competing interest. So I could see why it's delayed. I'm sure Marvel. If I look up, let me see, Marvel. I'm sure Marvel has something. Now, obviously, it's
They
not
do have
as.
Marvel Snap, right? But they were still okay with making. So
Yeah,
maybe they would be okay with Star Wars. That's fair.
yeah.
They
I
get
mean,
paid
like
for it either way,
money.
so I'm
Yeah,
sure they're fine
money
with
is
it.
money to them. They want to make sure that they get paid for it. So yeah,
Yeah, well, I guess whenever you guys hear of the Naruto, Full Metal
yeah.
Alchemist, Game of Thrones, or Star Wars sets coming from Universes Beyond, that would be because Wizards was listening to our podcast and took the ideas. You guys don't have to pay us royalties; it's fine. We
No way.
take
I want
it,
some.
just
I
make
want
sure.
some.
Okay. Well, guys, I think that about wraps up the episode. Adam, anything before we head out?
No, excited to talk to you next week.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, thanks, guys, for listening. We'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.
I'm taking you out of the scrubber.